Her name is Cris Justino, better known as Cyborg, and she will make her UFC debut at 140 pounds. Welcome into MMA Live Extra. My name is Todd Grisham. Joining us now is Brett Okamoto from Las Vegas. Brett, your immediate reaction when you heard the news?
Finally, I've been waiting for Cris Cyborg to be in the UFC for a while now, and I understand why she hasn't been thus far. The UFC just doesn't have her weight class. They don't promote a 145-pound weight class. Cyborg is the longtime champion of several organizations at that 145 pounds. She has tried to make 135, and it's not in her wheelhouse. She can't get down to that weight. So now the UFC is saying, listen, we have a premier fighter in Cris Cyborg. We want to use her in some way. Let's make a catchweight fight for her. They really don't know what the future holds, but they got to get her in the octagon somehow, and this is a way to get her in at 140 pounds.
When you say you don't know what the future holds, all UFC fans basically want the future to hold a shot against either Ronda Rousey or perhaps Holly Holm. What's the likelihood of that happening?
Well, again, I think it goes back to Cyborg is marketable. This woman goes out and knocks out her opponents in 45 seconds, and that is valuable when you're talking about the UFC. But they need to figure out how they want to do it. The question is still, what happens if Cyborg goes in and knocks out someone like, Miesha Tate, who holds the 135-pound championship? The UFC then, it doesn't have a new champion on its hands because Cyborg can't make it to 135. So that's always going to create a little bit of hesitancy. But I think since Ronda Rousey lost, since the UFC is looking at that division saying we need to influx new talent, we need to create these interesting matchups. People want to see these matchups. Holly Holm, Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey, Cris Cyborg. They want to see a combination of two of those athletes in the octagon at any time. So I think chances are pretty good that Cyborg will end up with a big fight at some point. Whether or not it ends up being Ronda Rousey, don't know. We'll have to see how Ronda looks when she comes back later this year.
Brett, you and I were in Los Angeles for her Invicta Championship fight, I believe it was last February. And when Cyborg steps into the cage, she is such an awesome presence. It's almost like she's in a completely different division. Is the UFC, in fact, willing to create a 145-pound division just for her, considering she could be just that good?
I think the temptation will definitely be there, but I don't think you create an entire division based on one person. Now, they have kind of done that before. You could make the case that they did that with Ronda Rousey. That's why women were brought into the UFC in the first place, because Ronda Rousey was so popular. But I think when you look at just the complete lack of warm bodies for Cyborg to knock out at 145 pounds, it makes it a little bit of a dangerous business decision to essentially create a division in which there really is nobody besides Cyborg. There is no one else in the 145-pound division. So maybe down the road, a few years from now, but I don't believe that's imminent with this announcement. I mean, we could see Cris Cyborg fight in the UFC and then go back to Invicta. We'll just have to see how the future holds. So maybe, the answer to your question is maybe down the road, but it's not happening this year.